traveled up to the Quad Cities last week. We got back on Sunday. Talked about that on Monday. Did not make a recording yesterday. I went out to a couple of properties, but just wasn't feeling it yesterday. As a matter of fact, I was just a little bit edgy and irritable through the day. It's slightly out of sorts, kind of bubble-headed. Just didn't feel like I could focus. I had a good night's sleep, went to bed early the night before, went to bed early the night before that, went to bed early last night. I think now, as I'm into this morning and looking back over the last couple of days, it was some lingering physiological side effects of staying up overnight, taking myself out of my normal routine, my normal pattern, which on Monday I was talking about how beneficial it is to push those limits and break some of those routines. And I still believe that is 100% true, but staring directly into the sun here, I can't see anything. So, but there's a price to pay. You know, I went through a little bit of loss of sleep, and I think it carried over a couple of days. So for the first time since we've been back, I actually feel pretty good this morning. I feel like my normal self. I feel like I'm clicking on all cylinders. I feel good. So it doesn't hurt that it's a beautiful, sunshiny, blue sky day, and the temperatures are nice. You had the windows open overnight. It was very pleasant. It's 60 degrees now at 20 after 8, which is great. So my mind is back drifting into that spiritual, philosophical realm that I like to exist in, and thinking more about the book and my speech. I did talk a little bit on Monday about where my mind kind of went during that trip, as far as what my focus was on, where my focus shifted to. So that hasn't changed. I'm still really locked into this idea of creating this production for myself, and it's a matter of making decisions about what content to include, which is where my mind has been this morning, because I still steer away from other inspirational writers and speakers, because I don't want too much outside influence. I really want this body of work to be more true to myself, and it's nice to observe other people's perspective when it comes to this topic. I guess I can turn that radio off. And but one, I don't want to be accused of stealing somebody else's information. I don't want to be accused of generating anything that is not original to me. It doesn't originate inside of me. So that's what I'm trying to lock in on and harness. And there's going to be similarities, because it's just the nature of the universe. It's just, I'm not the only person that's going to see the things that I see in the way that I see them. So I'm just trying to keep it true to myself. So when I get done, I can say, you know what, that all came from inside of me somehow, somewhere. And but I keep reverting back to the concept of truth. And I spoke a little bit recently about my interactions with another writer, Tiffany Fitzhenry, and I had written a letter to her just telling her that I was really enjoyed her first book, and still in the process of reading her second book. I have not been able to block out time to sit and read for well over a week. I think I got one night, maybe Monday night, I read a little bit, but in the process of traveling and coming back and kind of getting back into the groove, I just have not gotten back into that cycle of blocking out at least a few minutes to read a little bit. So, but anyway, in the letter that the first one that I wrote, it was the one that took me 7 hours to put together, and I really felt like there was a lot in there. There was a lot of communication, not only in the words, but in the spirit that was intended in those words. And that's what the whole letter was about. It was about conveying ideas, conveying energy, basically the unseen. And there was a lot there, and it took me a long time to put that together, and then I had to modify it, and it's not important right now. I talked about it pretty detailed when all that happened, when all that was going on, but in her response, she had basically asked me, where do you come up with this? How do you understand this truth? How does this truth flow out of you? And I responded with my answer to that, and it took me a couple of days really to put that together, because it wasn't an easy answer. One, I wasn't sure how deep to take that answer, because like a lot of things, there's multiple levels to that answer. And although I suspect that she is capable of understanding it on the deepest level, I didn't want to make that assumption and write something that was so obscure that she wasn't able to get anything out of it. And that is the difficulty, I think, with dealing with that depth of thought. That one, you have to have an audience that can understand it, that can pick up on it, that can interpret it, and get benefit and understanding out of it. There aren't that many people that can take it to that depth and understand that depth. So, even if I identified somebody that I thought was capable of understanding that depth, they may not truly understand that I have the capacity to present that depth. If someone came to me and presented me with something that I was like, hey, I see something deeper here, my first question is going to be, do they even know how deep this is? Do they understand the level that this is on? Which is kind of where I am at in my dealings with my interactions with her, because I'm reading her book and I see a depth, I see a truth in there that's on a level that is, I don't think the majority of the population, but maybe a handful, I mean a 1 or 2% worldwide population could truly grasp. Now, if she's operating on that level, which would be this similar level that I feel that I operate on, because it's so rare to find those individuals, again, to this day, I am not 100% sure that I've encountered anybody that operates on that level, on that frequency, and can understand that depth of thought. And so there's doubt on both sides. One, is this other person going to understand it? And two, when they're presenting it to me, am I seeing something more than what they're seeing? So anyway, it gets back to the concept of presentation. What are you going to present, and in what way are you going to present it so that you can get the maximum amount of effect to the audience? Because the audience is diverse. The planet is the audience, and it's diverse. There's levels that I wouldn't even be able to define, as far as the capacity to understand. The capacity to understand. We'll just leave it at that. So it brings me back to the question that I've struggled with for the last number of years. How do I present? Because I can present a body of work that is layered, is multifaceted, has different aspects to it that different levels of consciousness could understand. And talking about the idea of face value, by just looking at my body of work, whatever it ends up being, whatever medium that I end up using, there's a face value to it. What you see and what you understand just from that. And then there's an underlying context to the words themselves that would speak to someone that would be just over what I would consider the base level of humanity. And then there's the idea of energy or thought attached to those words that's generated in the process of putting that together and compiling that and creating that body of work. There is an unseen that is basically tethered to that with the artist, and another level of humanity will be able to perceive that. They'll be able to feel that. They won't understand maybe why this body of work makes them feel what they feel, but once they reach that level, it will have an effect, but they won't understand it. And then there's another level above that can consciously pick up on that, interpret that, understand that, and understand what it is that's causing the reaction inside of them. And there's a depth just above that I think is right at the cusp of the highest end of human evolution, where you almost don't even see the words anymore. Where this body of work, whatever it is there, and there's something transcendent about it, that face value, because it comes down to scope. The human body, the human mind has scope is the only word that I can use for it. There's a limit of high and low that you can see. It's like turning a flashlight on in pitch black room. When you shine the light on, that circle of light is going to illuminate something, whatever is targeted on. But you will not be able to see, even though there's light on and you're in control of it and you're directing it, you will only be able to see what's in that circle of light at the time you're looking at it. Your eyes just can't focus and see what's in the light and what's outside of the light. It's a limitation of being human, and it's much like that in your perception of this scale that I'm talking about. You've got this level of depth, and once you've shifted that up, it's just like moving that flashlight beam up. You're moving up higher on the scale, but the higher you go up on the scale, the lower end you lose focus on. So there is a certain level, I believe, that you'll just be able to, you'll only be able to see that highest circle of illuminated for you. And again, it's difficult to find words and terminology to explain these things, so you have to kind of convert it into some metaphoric transformation to really try to communicate it. And the thing is, that's only for the people that don't understand it or wouldn't be able to grasp that. The individuals that operate on that level wouldn't need those breakdowns of that understanding, or they might. I don't know. There's still a lot that I don't understand in that conversion and the variables that the human mind, human body, human experience throw into the mix. So that was a very deep and esoteric version of where I am, why I am where I'm at now, as far as trying to figure out the best way to present myself. that's not really important right now. What's important is, how do I present what I am, who I am, what I have to offer in a way that inspires and liberates. And I have, over the last several days, over the last several weeks, I have an idea of how that is possible. I have a concept. I have this visual in my head that I have not been able to convert into words yet. I see it. It's there. But I can't explain it. The only word that comes to mind is magic. Because magic is that term that humanity has used forever to explain what couldn't be explained. It's the inability to see the equation and only the answer. So, I have an idea, I have a concept, and I see it being transformed into ideas, which these ideas are presentation points of my speech, points of my book, that I feel convey information, understanding, energy in a pure sense, but it's going to be up to the person experiencing it to interpret it and absorb it. It's not going to be a punch in the face. Hey, this is it right here. Cut and dry. This is the answer. Because unfortunately, it's not the way it works. So this whole recording has kind of spun out of control, and I've kind of bounced all over, but again, that's the nature of reality. That's the nature of my mind. That's the nature of, well, my reality. But I don't know that I can talk too much more about any of this. I'm creeping up on my destination.